principal forced Black Boy to play piano. As punishment, the moment he played, everyone was crying. The laughter started before he even touched the keys. It wasn't loud at first, just a few whispers curling through the auditorium like smoke. But to Marcus Reed, standing alone under the harsh glow of stage lights, it felt deafening. Every eye in the room was on him. Teachers, students, the principal, and the piano. Marcus swallowed hard. His fingers twitched at his sides, as if they already knew what they were meant to do, and feared it at the same time. "Go on," Principal Hargrove said, arms folded, his voice echoing into the silence. "You wanted attention so badly, Marcus. Now you have it." A few students snickered. Marcus didn't respond. He couldn't. His throat felt tight, like words would shatter if he tried to force them out. Just an hour ago, he'd been in the hallway, quiet, invisible, the way he always preferred. But invisible people don't get blamed when something goes missing. Invisible people don't get dragged into the office, accused of stealing a teacher's wallet, and told they need to learn a lesson. "I didn't take it," Marcus had said, voice barely above a whisper. Principal Hargrove didn't yell. He didn't need to. His disappointment carried more weight than anger ever could. "You've been skipping extracurriculars, your grades are slipping, and now this," he said. "If you want to act out, you can do it where everyone sees you." That's how Marcus ended up here. On stage, in front of the entire school, at a piano he hadn't touched in years. "Play," Hargrove said again, sharper this time. Marcus looked out at the sea of faces. Some curious, some amused, some indifferent, and then, he saw her. Ms. Alvarez, the music teacher, standing near the back. Her expression wasn't mocking. It wasn't even surprised. It was worried. She knew. Or at least, she remembered. Marcus took a slow breath and stepped toward the piano bench. Each step felt heavier than the last, like he was walking through water. The bench creaked softly as he sat. The keys gleamed under the lights, perfect, untouched, waiting. His hands hovered above them. For a moment, nothing happened. The room held its breath. And then, he pressed the first key. A single note, soft, fragile. It lingered in the air, trembling like it wasn't sure it belonged there. A few more whispers, but Marcus didn't hear them anymore. Because the moment that note echoed back to him, something shifted. He closed his eyes, and suddenly, he wasn't in the auditorium anymore. He was 6 years old again, sitting on a cracked piano bench in a tiny apartment that smelled like warm bread and lavender oil. His mother stood beside him, smiling gently. "Again," she said, tapping the sheet music. "But this time, don't just play the notes. Feel them." "I am feeling them," Marcus had protested, scrunching his face. She laughed softly. "No, baby, you're thinking them. That's different." She placed her hand over his. "Music isn't about being perfect. It's about telling the truth." Marcus looked up at her. "What truth?" "The one you don't know how to say yet." Back on stage, Marcus's fingers moved again. This time, not just one note. A melody. Simple at first, hesitant, but real. The room quieted. A few students shifted in their seats, confused. This wasn't what they expected. Marcus had always been the quiet kid. The one who sat in the back, hood up, eyes down. The one teachers forgot to call on. No one knew he could play. No one knew anything about him. And yet, the melody grew. It wrapped itself around the room, weaving through the silence like a story unfolding. Marcus's hands moved with increasing confidence, the notes spilling out. Faster now, richer, deeper. He wasn't reading sheet music. He wasn't performing. He was remembering. The hospital room had been too white, too quiet, too final. Marcus sat by his mother's bed, his small hand gripping hers. "Play for me," she whispered, her voice barely there. "There's no piano here," he said, blinking back tears. She smiled weakly. "Then play it in your heart." "I don't know how." "You do," she said. "You've always known." Marcus shook his head. "What if I mess up?" She squeezed his hand gently. "Then it'll be honest." The music shifted. It wasn't soft anymore. It surged, a wave crashing against the walls of the auditorium. Students who had been whispering now sat frozen, their eyes locked on the stage. Teachers leaned forward. Principal Hargrove's arms slowly dropped from his chest. This wasn't punishment anymore. This was something else. Something no one could quite name. Marcus's fingers danced across the keys, faster now, stronger. The melody twisted and turned, rising into something powerful, something raw. It wasn't perfect. There were mistakes, missed notes, but they didn't matter, because every note, right or wrong, carried something deeper. Pain, love, loss, hope. It was all there, laid bare. After his mother passed, the piano had gone silent. Marcus couldn't touch it. Every key reminded him of her voice, her laughter, the way she'd hum along when he played. So he stopped. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years. The piano gathered dust, and Marcus learned to be quiet instead. To shrink, to disappear, because it hurt less that way. The music softened again, a fragile thread after the storm. Marcus's eyes were still closed, but tears slipped down his cheeks, catching the stage light. He didn't wipe them away. He didn't stop, because for the first time in years, he wasn't holding anything back. In the audience, Ms. Alvarez covered her mouth, her own eyes glistening. "I knew it," she whispered. Beside her, a student who had laughed earlier now sat completely still, his expression changed. On the front row, a teacher blinked rapidly, trying to compose herself. Even Principal Hargrove felt something tighten in his chest, an unfamiliar discomfort, like guilt rising to the surface. He looked at Marcus, not as a problem, not as a student who needed discipline, but as a boy. A boy carrying something far heavier than anyone had noticed. The final notes came slowly, deliberately, each one hanging in the air just a little longer than the last. As if Marcus didn't want it to end. As if ending it meant going back to silence. Back to being invisible. His fingers hovered over the keys one last time. Then, the final note. It echoed, faded, and disappeared. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything Marcus had just poured into the room. And then, someone sniffled. Another person wiped their eyes. A chair creaked. And suddenly, the entire auditorium seemed to exhale at once. Principal Hargrove stood frozen, his gaze fixed on the boy at the piano. Marcus opened his eyes. Slowly, he looked out at the audience again. But this time, the faces were different. No one was laughing. No one was whispering. They were feeling, seeing him, really seeing him. For the first time, Marcus stood up from the bench. His legs felt shaky, like they didn't quite belong to him anymore. He didn't bow. He didn't wait for applause. He just stepped away from the piano. Somewhere in the back, a pair of hands started clapping. Softly at first, then louder, and louder, until the entire room was filled with it. Not the kind of applause you give for a performance, but the kind you give when something inside you has been changed. Principal Hargrove swallowed hard, his throat dry. He glanced at the teachers around him, then back at Marcus. The boy stood near the edge of the stage now, unsure, almost like he was ready to run. For the first time, Hargrove hesitated. The words he had prepared earlier, the lecture, the punishment, the authority, they all felt small now. Insufficient. He took a step forward. "Marcus," he called, his voice softer than before. Marcus stopped, turned slightly. The entire room watched. Hargrove opened his mouth, but nothing came out, because for once, he didn't know what to say. And maybe, for once, that silence meant something.